G'day YouTube. Part 3 in background briefing. Alt-right neo-Nazis in Australian politics.
Fraser Anning appeared at this far-right rally in St Kilda in January. By this stage, he'd been expelled from Katter's Australia Party and was making plans for his own re-election.
Australia's had enough. I think this is the start of something bigger. I believe that the revolution will eventually start and people have had enough of these people and they've got to be sent back to where they came from.
Now, as Senator Anning hurtles towards his first election campaign as the leader of the Fraser Anning Conservative National Party, I can show you the ties between his staff and the Australian alt-right are deeper than ever before. And when they converged on Canberra for the last sitting week of this parliament, one of them blew their cover. Fraser Anning's electorate officer, Zach Newton, is a prolific shitposter, which basically means he regularly posts extremely offensive material online that's designed to trigger a reaction. He posted a photo of some fascist books he'd ordered in February, including one called Notes on the Third Reich and another called A Handbook for Right-Wing Youth. Zach Newton commented on his own Facebook post,
"Basically straight up signalling at this point, but I'm a happy lad."
When I asked him about his political beliefs, he told me he's just a traditional conservative. He said,
"I've read a wide range of texts including Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. However, that doesn't make me a card-carrying communist any more than reading The Little Engine That Could would make me a train."
Late last year, on the same day a far-right terrorist stormed into a Pittsburgh synagogue and killed 11 people, Zach Newton made a meme, using the last words the shooter posted online, "Screw your optics, I'm going in." Another user posts underneath,
"Can't you fucking let us mourn our dead for like at least a day before you start making memes about it?"
To which Zach Newton replies,
"Waiting a day and lose all edge factor? Not a chance."
I asked him about the post, and he said it was obviously a reference to a video game and that
"To imply anything else is manifestly false."
So when he landed in Canberra for the last sitting week before the election, naturally, he started posting to Facebook.
"Amusing to think I went from shitposting at home and now I'm shitposting in Parliament. But here I am, laughing my ass off."
One of the last items of business for this Senate was censuring Fraser Anning for his comments linking the Christchurch massacre to Muslim migration.
Today, the government and government senators join with the opposition and members of other parties to condemn in the strongest possible terms the comments made by Senator Anning in relation to last month's terrorist attack.
MPs collectively condemned him.
"Through his words, his actions, he has aligned himself with the most vicious form of ethnic and racial hatred. He is exonerating the murderous action of a deranged and hate-filled killer."
So when Senator Anning stood up to respond, I was watching his speech on screen.
This censure motion against me is a blatant attack on free speech. It is also an exercise in left-wing virtue signalling of the worst kind.
In the wide-angle shots of the Senate, Fraser Anning's staff can be seen sitting at the back of the room in the advisors' chairs. And there are 4 of them, including Zach Newton, 2 young men and 2 women. And they're sitting just back and to the right of Green Senators Larissa Waters and Maureen Faruqi. After nearly 10 minutes, Senator Anning finishes his speech.
Sir Robert Menzies would be rolling in his grave. Thank you.
Senator Hanson.
And he and his staff leave the chamber. Now, this whole time, I've also been half scanning through reams of alt-right content on a Facebook page called Abhorrent Australian Memes Did Nothing Wrong, just in case something relevant is posted. Within an hour, a photo of the 2 Green senators appears on the Abhorrent Memes page. One of them looks like she's sticking her middle finger up, and the caption is, "So brave, Larissa Waters puts up a finger whilst Fraser Anning is speaking." I studied the angle that the photo must have been taken from, and it seems to be almost exactly the same place on the floor of the chamber where Zach Newton and the rest of Fraser Anning's staff were sitting. Zach Newton and a spokesman for Fraser Anning both told me in a statement that they have no knowledge of the photo. The office that enforces the rules of the Senate told me that any photo taken on the floor of the Senate would be in breach of the rules, and that they're investigating the matter now. Radomir Kobryn-Coletti is one of Fraser Anning's media assistants. Andrew Wilson is listed as one of the founding members of the New South Wales Fraser Anning Conservative National Party's Facebook page and appears in photos that the group posts online, but he's not officially on the Senator's staff. Looking back through an archived list I kept of the New Guard's members, I can see now that Zach Newton, Andrew Wilson, and Radomir Kobryn-Coletti were all members of the New Guard. At the same time, members of the group plotted to infiltrate mainstream political parties and change their policy agendas from within. Zach Newton told Background Briefing,
If in fact my name appears in such a Facebook group, I can only assume it was added by someone else without my knowledge or permission, as I've never sought to join or work with any groups bearing that name or holding those views.
He deleted his Facebook account shortly after I contacted him.
I think it demonstrates that those connections are direct and concrete.
That's Andy Fleming again, researcher of the Australian far right.
I think it also says that over time, if you're persistent, these kinds of opportunities become available to you. So if I were Andrew Wilson or one of his comrades, I'd be delighted.
Andy Fleming says that Senator Anning's ascendancy to Parliament has provided the internet-savvy meme-posting members of the Australian alt-right with an incredible opportunity.
These are young men generally who have been engaged in various forms of what might be termed mimetic warfare for some time, and they've found an opportunity to gain, paid employment, undertaking the same or very similar kinds of work.
I've seen leaked chats between nationalists that show Wilson's covert strategy for Senator Anning's re-election campaign. On Facebook, Andrew Wilson goes by a number of pseudonyms. In one message, he boasts he does media for Senator Anning and says he is working with Radomir Kobryn-Coletti on the campaign. In another, he says the party has raised $40,000 in the past week. Then he lays out the party's entire campaign plan.
Obtaining and accessing giant email and SMS database, like Clive did, but sending messages that are extremely right-wing. Call for donations. I believe our supporters will answer and start donating immediately. We need the website going now and payments flowing in.
Wilson also talks about conducting what he calls highly provocative letterboxing campaigns and unleashing a daily avalanche of posts on social media, as well as
stunts involving blackface and other taboos, doing videos that cause controversy, burning of UN, Antifa and ISIS flags, possibly the Quran as well, would make global news. Setting up an anti-white hate reporting website where people can file complaints against ethnic crime, such as African gangs, or any anti-white discrimination suffered in the workplace.
After watching Andrew Wilson's online activity for so long, and seeing the way he trolled through his meme pages, I have many questions. But when I get him on the phone and ask him to introduce himself for the record, I am not prepared for this.
Okay. My name is Andrew Stevens, and I'm speaking to Alex Mann, who's identified himself as an ABC reporter, and I'm not really sure why he's calling.
Are you saying your name is Andrew Stephen, not Andrew Wilson?
That's correct.
If you missed that, the Andrew I'm speaking to insists his last name is Stevens, not Wilson. This phone number that I've called you on is the phone number that is attributed to Andrew Wilson in court documents that we've consulted in WA. So this is the number attached to your name in court documents.
Okay.
So you're saying that your name is not Andrew Wilson?
Correct.
Throughout the call, this Andrew continues to deny his last name is Wilson, and at one point even says he doesn't know who Fraser Anning is, referring to him as Robert Fraser. The conversation continues in this vein for about 15 minutes. You're in a business relationship with Radomir Kobryn-Coletti, who's a current staff member of Fraser Anning's. What's the nature of the work that the two of you do together?
I haven't heard that name before. I don't know who you're talking about.
And when I ask him about the leaked messages that detail his plans for Senator Fraser Anning's re-election, I get more of the same. You are a founding member of the New South Wales Fraser Anning Conservative National Party Facebook group. I've seen your profile on there. An earlier version of that profile carries your name, Andrew John Wilson. I've seen comments of yours online where you say that you are working for Fraser Anning. You say you're doing his memes. What is your relationship to Fraser Anning?
I think those sort of comments have obviously been photoshopped to try and misidentify those people with other people. It's also confusing with social media stuff.
I've asked you a number of different questions throughout, and I don't think you've been honest in answering them. So I don't really see the point of continuing the interview if that's going to be the way that it goes.
Well, okay.
Andrew Wilson has since sent the ABC a letter confirming he did receive this phone call. A spokesman for Senator Fraser Anning told me,
"The individual you're referring to has no involvement in Senator Anning's office, nor will they at any time in the future. Any statement that they have, will, or otherwise have involvement in Senator Anning's office is false."
For what it's worth, the pundits aren't giving Senator Anning a great chance of re-election. But whether the campaign strategy we've seen is successful in getting him elected or not doesn't really matter. Because this was never really about Senator Fraser Anning, just as it was never really about Egg Boy. This is about a movement that has a long history of co-opting and infiltrating politics and institutions, and you can trace it back from Senator Anning and his staff, to Clive Palmer, to the New South Wales Young Nationals, to Club Nation and the Humanist Society, and they're just the ones we know about. At a time when electoral politics is more vulnerable than ever to manipulation, Andy Fleming says it's worth watching what these guys do next. Because if they've tried before, then they'll probably try again.
It's often the case that these individuals, if to the extent that they're committed to their politics, they don't disappear. They just carry on and reappear somewhere else. And they look for moments and opportunities across the board, and will utilise them in a collective fashion whenever they think it's appropriate and whenever they think that they can essentially get away with it.
Background Briefing sound producers are Lila Schunner and Ingrid Wagner. Our digital producer is David Lewis. Fact-checking and additional reporting by Benjamin Sveen. Supervising producer is Ali Russell. Our executive producer is Alice Brennan. I'm Alex Mann. You can subscribe to Background Briefing wherever you get your podcasts and on the ABC Listen app. Thanks for listening.
There you go. And there you know. Clearly, what we need to do is build a concentration camp. And fill it up with Nazis. Because clearly, the evidence is irrefutable. They are out there. Funny how infrared shows up as blue on this phone. The broad sunlit uplands. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.